One of the highlights of the Ohio State Fair about every other year is the Clydesdales from Budweiser. Joining me is Amy Trout. And Amy, you said this is the East Coast Clydesdales, and how many different groups are there then?
We have actually 6 different groups of Clydesdales around the country, 6 full hitches. This group is out of Merrimack, New Hampshire. We have a brewery up there and a breeding or training facility for this particular hitch, and we keep about 25 head of Clydesdales there.
Now, in reality is we could spend probably 3 hours talking about some of the history and all these different things from the group, but tell us why Clydesdales. It is a breed of horse, not just something that's been associated with Budweiser from way back.
Right. Well, the Clydesdale breed is sort of a magnificent sort of breed. In years past, they've been used as the medieval horses that carried the knights in armor into battle. So they were bred to be this large to actually go into battle and fight. Well, back in the old days, they were used for farm work and delivering of goods and that sort of thing. Well, Budweiser got involved with these great animals back in 1933, and that was the repeal of the Act of Prohibition. And so the president of the company was given a 6-horse hitch of Clydesdales as a gift from his son. And at that time, the country was just coming out of the Depression, and these horses were so magnificent that people loved them. And they went on tour by train to the governor of New York and to the White House. FDR had just taken office at the time and delivered some of the first post-prohibition beer in the United States. In 1934, they added 2 more horses, and it became the 8-horse hitch that you see today. And next year, we will celebrate 75 years the Clydesdales have been part of Anheuser-Busch.
Part of it, and for some, maybe the most recognizable part. Let's talk about the animals. How big are the animals?
Well, our horses have some minimum size requirements. We want our horses to weigh a minimum of 2,000 pounds and stand 18 hands high, and that is exactly 6 feet at the withers. So not only do they have to have a certain size requirement, but also the markings. And this guy, as you can see standing behind me, if he throws his head up a little bit, this is Stuart, and they all have a dark bay body, black mane and tail, and the 4 white socks that you're so common to see. We call that feathering. So they have to have the right size and the right markings to make the cut.
How about personality?
Absolutely. They have to be able to drive. We're out here around thousands and thousands of people, and we have to have horses that have an even sort of temperament and are easy for us to work with. This group of horses is on the road 320 days out of the year. So not only do they have to be able to pull the wagon and look good and be the right size, but they have to travel well and deal with some of the changing climates that we have to endure on the East Coast.
How many different animals then rotate through these hitches, or do these guys carry the load all the time?
Well, we actually have, like I said, 25 horses in Merrimack, New Hampshire. That's our home base. And we bring 10 with us on the road, so we can rotate those different 25 into our group at any given time. We only keep our horses active on the hitch from about the age of 5 or 6 is before they're mature enough to come do this, until they're about 15. So we look at about 10 active years of service for these guys, and then they get to retire to some pretty green pastures.
Now, with this type of group, some would be used to draft horses working together as a pair. These guys obviously well enough trained. They're interchangeable about any point.
That's right. We have to be able to switch the horses out from teams left to right. Each different team in the hitch has a different name. So we have the wheel team that's the closest to the wagon. Then we have the body team, then the swing team, and then the lead team. And some of those horses have to be able to move in different positions based on their size. And I know a lot of people think they're all the exact same size, but there's some differences out here. And the smaller guys actually stay up near the front, and the big wheel guys are closest to the wagon because they're doing all the work. The wagon alone weighs 8,000 pounds that we ask them to carry or pull for us.
They're doing all the pulling work, but those little guys up front have to be the first ones to respond at a turn.
They're the flashy, high-stepping guys.
Tell me about getting them ready for events like the State Fair, other fairs and festivals. I mean, people will stand out here and actually create their own parade of watching you get the horses even ready to go.
I know. It's kind of an amazing thing. We got a great team here. There's a crew of 7 of us that take care of these horses, and it's really a routine for us. So you'll watch us. We're going to start the braiding process shortly, and everything goes like clockwork. We braid in less than a half hour. We harness them in less than a half hour. They're hooked to the wagon and ready to go in less than an hour. So, I mean, it's really clockwork if everything goes well, but we always have to plan for any mishaps that might occur. Harness piece might break, and we have to repair it. So we've got to be able to think on our feet and just get the job done.
What does a harness weigh?
Each individual set of harness weighs 135 pounds, which to these guys is kind of like a backpack. It's not really that heavy. Now, what the harness costs is pretty magnificent. Each individual set will go anywhere from $13,000 to $15,000 a set. So when you see all 8 of them hooked up out there, you're easily looking at $100,000 worth of leather and brass.
And leather and brass part of the show there, but at the same time, the wagon, a story in and of itself.
Yeah, the wagon is awesome. We have a turn-of-the-century Studebaker wagon. It, like I said earlier, it weighs about 8,000 pounds. It's over 100 years old. You just don't find them like that. Ours is in great shape, and it's truly magnificent to look. If you're into wagons at all, you definitely want to come see ours.
The original wagon, 8-horse hitch. How many cases on it?
About 250 cases, and so with the weight of the wagon and the weight of the beer, we figure they may have been pulling about 18,000 pounds. Now, back then, they didn't even have paved roads, so this was muddy, nasty streets sometimes, so these guys really had to work to get the beer delivered.
Tell me about some of the unique characteristics. What are some of the behind-the-scene things that are unique about these horses, and we'll get to the dog in a minute.
Well, the neat thing about these horses is that they have their own personalities. And people always ask, do you just take care of one horse or 2 horses? No, we take care of all of them, and they're all different. They all have their different personalities. They have their likes and their dislikes. It's just like a family.
Now, when we talk about our Dalmatian, a story in and of itself there from way back.
I'm not really sure where he ran off to. He's running around here somewhere. But the Dalmatian has an interesting history because they were originally incorporated as coaching dogs. And back in the day when the hitch would be driving down the street, there might be stray dogs that would run out and kind of get after the horses. Well, the Dalmatians were incorporated to kind of help keep the stray dogs off the street and leave the horses alone. And then more importantly, when the driver pulled up to a bar or a restaurant to make their delivery, the driver would have to get off and go in and make their beer delivery. So who's going to keep people from stealing the beer off the wagon? So that's why the Dalmatian was brought in. They were actually used as guard-type dogs.
Amy, if somebody wants to know your upcoming schedule, is there a way we can find out?
Absolutely. You can go to our website. It's www.budweiser.com. There's a Clydesdale icon, and under that icon, you'll find our schedules. There's 5 hitches on there that have their schedules posted. We're the East Coast hitch, and it'll give you your schedule about a month in advance.
Amy Trout, my guest, as she works with the Clydesdales from the East Coast as they make appearances, delighting crowds all over America. From the Ohio State Fair, I'm Dale Minyo. Until next time, I'll see you down the road. Down the Road is brought to you in part by Prince Agra, makers of Omnigen AF, advancing animal nutrition for healthy animals, and Woodruff Enterprise of Springfield, Ohio.